Well, a year ago, I took my second trip to Liberia. As we left the United States, the big question for us was whether or not we'd be quarantined on our arrival in Africa. At that time, when we left the U.S., there was about 300 reported cases of COVID-19 in our country. Well, in the goodness of God, we were not quarantined upon our arrival. We were able to carry out the mission that we had gone for. We were training pastors and other church leaders. Unfortunately, though, the team I was going with, it was kind of a 2-week trip. I was on the first week. The second week was canceled because of the coronavirus. But we were able to get there. On our way home, we were instructed when we landed in the U.S. to quarantine for 14 days because our connecting flight had been in Belgium. During those 14 days of my quarantine, the United States basically shut down. That was that time when the lockdown began. During that time, our church essentially stopped worship. We did provide what I called some songs and a sermon. We streamed songs and a sermon. We didn't really call it worship because the church couldn't gather. So we were just kind of doing this sort of thing. And putting that out as a way to try to encourage and edify God's people, but God's people just couldn't get together. As things began to open up in our state, you'll recall we did some drive-in worship services in our parking lot. Then as a little bit later, we were able to return to in-person gathering inside of our building. Though we have been following the basic guidelines given to us by our state for such in-building gatherings. Other than an additional quarantine for my wife because she had been near a COVID-19 positive individual, for the most part, our family has been relatively unaffected. We've all stayed healthy. Actually, it's been one of the healthier years for our family. I don't think any of us has even had a cold this year. The other issue, of course, would be that our extended family lives outside of the state of Ohio, most of our extended family, and they've been under our state's travel ban. So like many other families in the United States, we have not seen very many other family members other than our own immediate family. And so that's certainly difficult for us, just like it's been difficult for many of you. But church life is still impacted right now by this COVID-19. As of this recording, we continue to listen to the guidelines given to us by our state government. So we continue to practice social distancing in our building. We wear face masks. We do temperature checks. That's as much to remind one another to be aware of our health. We are limiting the number of people who can actually gather in our building. So our sanctuary seating is about 70 to 75 people. It kind of depends on how close people are willing to sit with others. We say about that 70-ish number, and that's about how many people we had on our last Lord's Day together. We also have 50 seats set up in our fellowship hall, so we do a live stream there so that you could at least gather with other believers in one place. And some folks are still meeting out in our parking lot where we just stream or just send forth the audio. There's no video, but the audio. But as you come to church, I just want to encourage you to come with a love one another attitude. And that's the case whether you're coming to our church or any other church. Right? Come with a love one another attitude. Your brothers and sisters may not be quite where you are on this whole pandemic thing. It's been the way, this is what we've been living with for the last year, but it continues now. Some people may not want to sit quite as close to you as you're comfortable sitting to them. On the other hand, that person who just sat down right next to you may not have been trying to invade your personal space. They were just looking for a seat. So come with this love one another attitude. Continue to be gracious. Continue to be generous to one another. As a church, you've been doing this for the last year. Keep up the good work. Love one another. Count the others as more important than yourself. And let's continue to pray for the end of this pandemic. I am hopeful that the end is at least on the horizon, if not in sight. It sounds like it based on the experts and so on. But the fact is, it's been a long year. It's been a very tiring year. But God has been faithful, and God will continue to be faithful.